What's up, everybody? This has been a great Camp GC. This has been a great weekend. I'm so excited to talk to you all tonight. Man, I've really been trying to make the most of every moment here. Take it all in. If you get the chance to come to more of these, make the most of it. I'm telling you from up here, and from people that have already graduated, make the most of it. All right, you are gonna miss it. Okay. Okay. I want to start with a question. If you have dreams, plans, ways your life wants to be, or like things you want to accomplish, I want you to raise your hand. I'm assuming most of us have an idea of how we want to be in the future. As a kid, I was the same way. I think we all have that in common. I decided to write what I wanted to be like in the future. I decided to, put it on a note and bury it. This is known as a time capsule, if y'all didn't know. If you want tips for a time capsule, I can let you know, because some of it worked, some of it didn't. But what makes this even better is that I happened to video the process of me burying this. Most of you may know I'm pretty camera shy, so I don't know what made me want to video this, but I want y'all to watch this.
Hey guys, so today is the total eclipse, August 21st, 2017, and it is, I don't know what time it is, but I decided to make a time capsule today. By the way, I'm 11 years old, and I'm about to dig it up, so bye, see ya in blank years. This is the final. Well, I just finished digging, and here is the final product. I did a pretty good job digging, right? The haters are gonna hate, so. Sorry. I hope someone finds this. Hopefully me. In 7 years, maybe? 1 year? I don't know, but I hope I'll see you in soon.
See you in soon means, but I think we're there. I think we're at soon. So I did not bury it in this. I actually buried it in a Star Wars lunchbox. If I were to give any advice, either don't bury it or put it in something that will keep from the rain and the dirt getting in it. I put a bunch of things in here. Fidget spinners. This was a huge thing back then. This is when they were coming out. Everyone had to have one. Put that in there. I have some General Grievous Star Wars toys. I don't know why I put that in there. But here is the note that I wrote to myself. Do you think I can read that? No, I can't. When I pulled this out, it smelled very bad. It felt weird. Paper and rain and dirt don't mix well together. But I don't know exactly what I wrote, but I do remember on the paper me writing something like, "When you open this, I hope you're playing basketball in college." I remember that. At that point, I think I wanted to play at Harding, but I remember that very vividly. And if you don't know, that's not going to happen. My life is actually very different than what I thought it would be like when I was a kid. But tonight, I want to share some truths that I have learned of what should happen after knowing that God is enough. We know that God is enough, so how should we live now? That's what I'm going to talk about. And what He has done and is doing in my life is so much better than I could have ever wrote down or thought of. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, I want to make sure we're on the same page. I want to make sure you guys can trust me up here. So I want to say two things we would admit. I want to make sure we all agree on something. God is enough. Would you all agree with that? Okay, that's good. This whole weekend we've been talking about how God is enough. And I have a speculation, actually, that most of us would have said that God is enough before we even came to Camp GC. I would have said that for sure. So you might be thinking, all right, then why did we talk about that? That's kind of obvious if we all knew that. But I don't know if I would have been able to back it up. If I would have been able to say, point in my life how God is enough. So Hannah, Cammie, Brooke, they have brought 3 great messages. Hopefully y'all can see in your life how God is enough. Y'all can point to areas in your life how God is providing, how you can trust in His plan. And so, the other thing, though, is that not everyone knows God is enough. Not in this room. I'm talking about people outside of this room. Outside of the youth group, not everyone knows that God is enough. For this, I want you all to think about people in your life. It could be school friends. It's probably not going to be people here, so think of people outside this room. Could be school, could be sports teams, people who don't know God is enough. That could be their lifestyle. They're not really living in a way that God is enough. They're not following in the same way you are. So throughout this message, I want you to think of that person in the back of your head or that group of people. So I think we could acknowledge there are people who need help knowing God is enough. People need help knowing God is enough. My fault. So we know that God is enough, and there are people who need help knowing God is enough. Doesn't that seem like a good solution for us to just tell them, right? I don't think that's as simple as it sounds, though. Because if that was simple, I think all of us would be doing it. And I'm not up here to make you feel bad, make you feel like you're not doing enough. But I want us to all learn and take that step together where we're willing to go tell others that God is enough. So you may be wondering, why doesn't every follower of Jesus help others know that God is enough? If someone outside this room, they would be like, yeah, why aren't you telling me? Well, here are 3 reasons that I think people don't tell why God is enough. Thinking it is someone else's job. It's not my responsibility. I'm going to let someone else do that. Fear. I'm a little too nervous. I'm too scared to do that. Someone else can do that. Or other things are more important. Something in your heart, something in your life is of more value than telling others that God is enough, preaching about Jesus. So this is a statement. This is not a true statement. But this is like a mindset that some of us can have. Telling others that God is enough is someone else's job. And how this could look, you could be like, okay, that's literally not my job. I don't get paid to do that. Rob Shaver gets paid to do that. He can tell other people that God is enough. That's not me. Or you could just think of it as they're better speakers, they're better communicators. They know more about the Bible, so I feel like they should tell others about Jesus, not me. Because what if I mess up? Or it could be someone with more influence. You don't think you have enough influence. Could be because you're not old enough, you don't think you're old enough, you don't think you're popular enough, you don't think anyone would care if you're setting an example for people. You don't think you have people to even go tell that God is enough. That no one's going to listen to you. No one cares what you have to say because you don't have enough influence. Well, here's a great verse for that. 2 Corinthians 5:20. This is cool hearing all the pens pop, writing down notes. So we are Christ's ambassadors. God is making His appeal through us. We speak for Christ when we plead, come back to God. And I think this is a great verse because no matter what level of influence you think you have, we are all called to be ambassadors of Christ. God is making His appeal through us. What does that mean? That means when we interact with people, when we see people, people see how God is enough through our lives. That's what that means. But I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be transparent. My life, I've never really had the struggle of having influence. Every area of my life, I've been able to have influence in some way. At school, this is 3rd grade. Check out the shorts. Check out the neon. If you're still in your neon phase, stay in it because I wish I could go back to that. This is for my 3rd grade class president campaign. Would y'all have voted for me? Yeah, nice. Okay, that's good. I think, and all this, I'm saying it in an open, transparent way. People have naturally been interested in what I have to say. I didn't ask for that. I think that's a blessing from God, but I think the way I act and treat others has stood out. people kind of take notice and are willing to pay attention to me. And I understand not everyone is like that. I get that. So I don't want you to think I'm taking that for granted or thinking I'm some hot shot up here thinking I was a third grade class president. I think all I got to do was pick what food we had at a class party. I didn't get to do much with that. But it's still an example of at school, I've typically had influence. Another one would be basketball. This one, also in a humble way, I think has a little to do with my skill, but it's also the way I lead. Because no one wants to follow a leader on a team if they're not backing up what they say, if they're not doing the same things that they're preaching to everyone. No one wants a leader that is, not encouraging. So I think that has had a bit to do with that. But this started out as I was not a leader of the team my freshman or sophomore year by any means. But quietly, I was able to just do what I thought was right over and over, give all out effort, go to the gym when no one was watching, things like that. And over time, people started to gain respect for me. Third way, this is not basketball. This is just me as a kid. Church. I didn't ask to be the son of a youth minister. But it kind of means that, people at Grace Chapel, people in the youth ministry are going to be more invested in who I am just because of who my dad is. I didn't ask for that, but I see that that's a blessing, and I need to use that well. None of this will be the case when I go to college, though. When I go to college, I'm not going to be president. I don't even know if I have that. I'm not going to be on the basketball team, and my dad has no authority there. So, now I'm in the same boat as everyone. If you have an influence, if you don't have influence. But I can tell you how I am going to live and what I'm going to do. 1 Corinthians 11:1. Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. The example we set should come from what God shows us, how Jesus lived. We can use Jesus as an example. He's a perfect example, but I'm glad that he's a perfect example because that sets the standard. That's kind of like a goal that we may never reach, but that's the goal. This is undeserving love, treating people with compassion, selflessness. If you have influence, leverage it. And if you think you don't have influence, represent Christ well. I'm going to talk about these for a second. If you do have influence, and you can kind of know who you are, you have people that kind of follow what you say. You have people that listen to what you do. You kind of model for people. Use that well. Don't take that lightly. If people are listening to what you have to say, you should be saying good things. You should be saying things that God would want you to say. You should be living out the life that Jesus lived because that means the people who are following you or listening to you are going to live that same way. And if you think you don't have influence, represent Christ well. That means we're all going to interact with other people. We're not just going to live a life where we never come in contact. So even in the small contact you have with people, even if you don't have a group of people they listen to you, you can still follow the example of God because you never know what impact that can have on someone. It can build up to a point where all of a sudden you have influence as well because people are drawn to the way you act. Nowadays, you can do the littlest things like smile and open the door for people, and it stands out because that's just not normal anymore. So do those things. Represent Christ well, even if you don't have influence. Next one. Telling others that God is enough is intimidating. Now, this one sucks because I think this is the biggest way Satan gets people who love God. Like, y'all love God. I see it. I know it. But why is there hesitation? Why is there hesitation in me to go tell people about Jesus? I think Satan is putting lies in our heads of what will happen. And so, here are some questions that you might think that show fear. What will people think of me? What if they say no? What if I put myself out there and they're like, no, I don't want to do that? What if I don't know every answer? Kind of what we talked about, what I just said. What if someone brings up a really good question and I don't know how to answer it? Then I'm going to look like I'm silly and they're not going to want to know that God is enough anymore. Or what if people think I'm trying to call them out? This is the biggest one for me. And it's awful because, like, this is such a good group of people, and Satan can hold us back with lies and by installing fear within us of what could happen. Here's a good verse for this. Romans 1:16 through 17. For I am not ashamed of this good news about Christ. It is the power of God at work, saving everyone who believes, the Jew first and also the Gentile. This good news tells us how God makes us right in his sight. This is accomplished from start to finish by faith. As the scriptures say, it is through faith that a righteous person has life. God's mission is accomplished through faith. Faith from the start to the finish. Not just faith when things are good or when, we just had a good day. That's not the time to only show faith. From start to finish. I don't know about y'all, but I never would have claimed to be ashamed of Jesus, of following Jesus. But I wasn't very open about it. I lived what he teached out, but I didn't go up to people and just was so open with it. I kind of kept it to myself. But I had to get past that fear and live faithfully. This is a Snapchat screenshot. There we go. My fault. I'm going to put the remote down. Okay. This is a Snapchat screenshot of 11 of my friends from school. I was feeling very called to reach out, and I really wanted to start a Bible study. A large part of that had to do with I'm in a discipleship group with John Shamblin. He leads it. Sam Hazelwood's in that group. And I've really been learning that we all have a role in expanding the kingdom of God. I kind of had that mindset of someone else has it, I'm too scared, but I realized I have a role and I need to do something about it. And this is a perfect time because we're doing Bible studies all summer. So this is a great time for you to learn how to lead that. But I felt called to reach out to these guys. These are guys I've known most of my life, but freshman and sophomore year I started to distance myself because I didn't know how to deal with the tension of I started doing some things I didn't really agree with. And I didn't really want to say no, be like the fun sucker. So I kind of just was like, I won't even give you the chance to ask me, so I don't have to say no. But I reached out this year. We kind of reconnected senior year, grew closer to these guys. And I was like, I see a great group of people who have very good potential of knowing God. And I could see what their lives could be like if they were to know God. So Zach already responded. But all of these showed delivered. That means I sent a message saying, I'm trying to start a Bible study. Like, let me know if you want to do it too. Let me know if you want to be in it. I kind of told him what it would be like, what that would look like. And I'm blessed that they all said yes. All 11 of them said yes. They were in. They wanted to do it. The past 3 Thursdays, we've met at my grandparents' basement. And they love the brownies my grandma makes. They love the popcorn. And, it didn't really set into me. I was like, all right, we got a Bible study the first time. And then they were all talking, having fun, eating, and I was like, I don't know how to start. I don't know how to start this. Like, how do I break away from the having fun into the God stuff? But it was all fun things. But I want y'all to realize that these guys, I think they would be fine with me saying this, but one of them, I was at the gym with him before, and he said, so are we going to start with chapter 1 tonight? And that's where it kind of opened my eyes, like, they kind of need help finding the book Matthew. We've been going over the Sermon on the Mount, and they need help finding the pages. They're all asking, what pages it's on, and it's eye-opening because this is all stuff that comes so naturally to us. We learn it all of our life. We know, we used to have contests when we were in elementary school of who could get to a book faster. And, now I'm getting to teach these guys, to invest in these guys and they're helping me learn so much because I have not done more Bible studying, more research than these past 3 weeks in my whole life. Because I've been wanting to be prepared so that I could teach them the right things, I've kind of been interpreting what God is saying to them. Because it can be complicated sometimes. And when he says to chop off a hand if it causes you to sin, they might read that with, like thinking that's really what it means, but I'm kind of like helping explain that to them, and they've been loving it. And we're meeting every Thursday now, and it's been really cool to see. I don't want that to scare you, though, that they all said yes. That's another one of my points. Now you might be like, oh, now I'm even more scared because everyone said yes to camp. Everyone said yes when he asked. I don't think that's going to happen for me. I didn't think they all were going to say yes to me. So let that be a testament that God is working through this, and that these are lies from Satan, the fears that you're having. Here's my next verse. Matthew 28:19-20. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Now, this is a very famous verse. Sam, this is the Great Commission. Yep. But I actually want to focus on the last part of it. I am with you always, even to the end of the age. How reassuring is that? He is with us always. That gives us a reason to not be, fearful or be worried. Which brings me to this point. Don't doubt what God can do with faithfulness. I had a lot of doubts, about, I don't know if these guys are going to want to do this, but don't doubt God. Because it will be better than you ever even imagined. God will work through you. God will work through the people you invite. And whatever the result may be, if they say yes, if they say no, that's how God wanted it to be. If you show faithfulness, there's a reason to all of that. Don't be scared out of fear, of what people think about you or people saying no. Just take that step. Because faithfulness is never failure. Apparently, this was an old saying at Grace Chapel that I kind of stole. But what that means is that whatever results come from, it's never a failure. It's never a failure. If they had all said no, all of those guys said no, I don't want to do that, it still wouldn't be a failure because I showed faithfulness. I took that step out there. And I think something I really love is that the impact might be later on in their lives. At the end of the summer, that's when it's probably going to end the Bible study. Some of them are going to the same college as me, but when that ends, if not all of them get baptized, if not all of them, start devoting their life to Christ, does that mean it's a failure? It doesn't, because you never know how that's working in them. You never know if, later on down the line they have a family and there's some trouble or things with their wife, and they remember what they learned. They remember teachings from the Sermon on the Mount. They remember that they can call me if they need anything. You never know when the impact on them may be in their life. So if you don't see it while you're around with them, it's not a failure. Just know that. And then the last one. Telling others that God is enough is not a priority. This is also a big one for me. Other things are on the way. There's too much going on. The first three are very similar. Don't have enough time, too busy. The gist of that is that I don't have enough time to go tell other people that God is enough. I don't have that time in my schedule. I got other things to do. I can't do that. Or your desires and dreams are more important. This is the one I resonated with the most, because this is me before my last ever basketball game. I think Miss Kate took this picture. She did. This is me before my last ever basketball game. I didn't know it was going to be my last. I really hoped it wouldn't be, but my whole life I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to play in college. I wanted to play in the NBA, and y'all can say I'm delusional, but I really was like, if I work hard enough, I can get there. I really, truly believe that, and that's why I'm so confident that when that buzzer sounded and my high school career was over and I didn't have the opportunity to play in college, I was done. Basketball was done in my life. I knew that this is happening for a reason. God is telling me something, and I think he was telling me that my priorities were wrong. I was putting basketball and all that came with it above God. In a way, I was worshiping basketball. I mean, I was spending Christmas Eve at the basketball gym instead of with my family. I put so much work into that, but leaving behind the telling others about God. If you're a simple person, this is very clear to you. You must not have any other God but me. It's plain and simple. It's very clear. Very clear. Don't have a God above the real God. And anything can become a God if you allow it to. I allowed basketball to become a God in my life. I did. But nothing should compete with God for the number one spot in your heart. Matthew 10:37-39 says, "If you love your father or mother more than you love me, you are not worthy of being mine. Or if you love your son or daughter more than me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you refuse to take up your own cross and follow me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you cling to your life, you will lose it, but if you give up your life for me, you will find it." I want to go back to this one. If you love your father or mother more than you love me, you are not worthy of being mine. All of us love things that don't seem that bad. No one would question you for loving your father or mother. No one would question you for that. No one would question me for loving basketball. The problem is when you love it more than God. That's the problem. So make sure that telling others about Jesus is more important in your life than anything else. That should come above everything. Lay down your desires and dreams before God. Give up what you want if it becomes bigger than worshiping God and telling others about Him. If you do play a sport in this room or do anything that you love, I'm not saying to quit it. I'm not saying to give that up. Literally, I'm saying make sure that you have your priorities straight, that telling others about God comes before that. I truly believe that you can do both at the same time. You can love basketball, you can love baseball, you can, like all that. You can do that while telling others about God, but make sure that comes first. This is a great reminder. I see athletes with this bracelet on. God is first, we are second. Or the bracelets actually say, I am second. But it's a great reminder. It's humbling. So much of the world says that, what you want to do, go do that. You think you can accomplish anything, go do that. But that, God's will is higher than that, if that makes sense. We need to surrender our will to God's will. His plan and what He wants from us comes before anything we want. So, everybody in the room, if you follow Jesus, if you don't follow Jesus yet, I really hope that you do. And I encourage you, don't wait. I hope this weekend has helped with that. But yeah, don't wait around. Follow Jesus. That can be through baptism. There's a lake right out there. There's a wave pool. We can do that. But if you have already given your life to Jesus, it's important for you to know that we are people's idea of how God is enough. I kind of mentioned this earlier. But this applies to all of you. Whether you ever become a speaker or not, whether you ever, have an upfront role, which, by the way, no role is better than another role. Everyone has their own spiritual gifts. Use the gifts you have with what you got. No role is better than another role. But I want you to think, could people say that they see how God is enough in your life? If I were to ask your best friend or people around you that you went to school with, do you think God is enough in their life? What would they say? Because if the answer is no, then don't feel bad about that, but use that as encouragement to live that way, to live out that God is enough. Because if you do that, they'll want God enough to be enough for them too. So that means to demonstrate godly character in every relationship and circumstance, because it will make a difference in the lives of others and people will take notice. People will notice when you're treating others differently than what's normal. But now I want to talk to those who are feeling called to go tell others that God is enough. I'm not trying to, single anyone out. If this isn't applying to you, keep listening, obviously. But for the people that are, I can see the people that are feeling called to go tell others that God is enough. So many of you are ready. This youth group prepares us so well to go do that. It really does. The discipleship groups, just the constant, being around each other, we really, are able to live out what we learn in this youth group. So God is calling people to become like Jesus and shepherd other sheep. This is a little bit of a step above, living the way God would want you to live. This is a little bit of a step above that. This is reaching out and having faith discussions with people. One thing I loved to do before I was super open with my faith was ask how I can pray for you to people that, don't know God yet, because that could open up something. I don't really want to initiate it, but that could be a way of, I'm willing, I'm here for you, I'm praying for you. If that opens up a conversation, that's great. Read Bible studies if you want to. I truly believe all of y'all are capable of doing that. Discipleship group leaders, you're able to practice that all summer. And the people that aren't, you're able to watch people that aren't that much older than you lead Bible studies. That's so cool. And I hope that you're able to see and that you can do that in your life. Jeremiah 3:15. All week we've been talking about, the sheep and the shepherd's imagery. And I will give you shepherds after my own heart who will guide you with knowledge and understanding. We are those shepherds that he's talking about. We can be those shepherds that he's talking about. So go be a shepherd and go help lost sheep. We're about to stand and sing More Like Jesus. The idea in this song is that we need more of him and less of us. That's pretty much what the whole song is about, so keep that in mind as you're singing it. There are two lines that really stand out. Here at your feet, my desires and dreams I lay down. We just talked about that. No matter what you're desiring in the future, whether it seems good or the dreams that you have that you really want to accomplish, lay that down before God. His will comes above ours. And then the other one, this world is dying to know who you are. We need to be the ones who help others know that God is enough. And if you feel called and you're ready, I want you to start sharing the name of Jesus with your friends, people you don't know, but represent the kingdom of God wherever you go. Whoa, that just rhymed. I didn't even plan that. I want y'all to stand as we sing this next song.